For centuries, Africa has been plundered, its people enslaved, and its resources exploited for the benefit of Western powers. But now, African leaders are coming together with a bold demand: trillions of dollars in reparations for the deep wounds of slavery and colonialism. Can centuries of economic injustice be rectified with financial compensation? And will the West finally acknowledge its historical debts, or will they continue to evade responsibility? This movement is not just about money. It's about justice, dignity, and reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. With increasing momentum, the call for reparations is shaking the very foundations of international politics. Before we dive into the details, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the African Web, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this crucial issue. The transatlantic slave trade wasn't just an atrocity. It was the economic engine that propelled Western nations into wealth and power. Millions of Africans were stolen, forced into unimaginable labor, and treated as mere commodities, generating profits that funded the industrial revolutions of Europe and the Americas. Even after slavery was officially abolished, colonial-era forced labor and resource extraction continued to drain Africa's potential, ensuring that Western economies flourished while African nations remained shackled by systemic oppression. How can Africa move forward when its past is filled with stolen wealth and unpaid labor? To this day, many African countries remain burdened by debt imposed during the colonial period, trapping them in a cycle of economic dependency. The legacy of this injustice is visible in the underdevelopment of African economies, despite their vast natural wealth. Education, infrastructure, and healthcare systems across Africa still bear the scars of this exploitation, making it harder for the continent to compete on equal footing. Without meaningful reparations, Africa risks being perpetually disadvantaged in the global economic order. Slavery may have ended in its traditional form, but its modern manifestations continue to strip Africa of its resources and labor. Child labor is rampant in industries such as cobalt mining in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where children risk their lives to extract materials essential for Western technology. In Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, cocoa plantations thrive on the backs of exploited laborers, feeding the billion-dollar chocolate industry with little benefit to the local population. Who really profits from Africa's riches? And why do Western corporations continue to dictate the terms of trade, ensuring that African nations earn mere fractions of what their resources are worth? The cycle of exploitation persists as multinational companies control everything from oil and minerals to agriculture, leaving African workers and economies at a severe disadvantage. If Africa is to truly break free from this grip, systemic change is necessary to dismantle the structures that enable modern economic slavery. The persistence of exploitative trade practices continues to widen the wealth gap between Africa and the rest of the world. A true end to exploitation would require fairer trade agreements and greater investment in African-owned industries. In response to this historical and ongoing plundering, African and Caribbean nations are demanding what is rightfully theirs: financial compensation for centuries of exploitation. Leaders across the continent argue that true justice means repaying the wealth that was stolen, rather than simply offering aid packages that maintain dependency. Beyond financial reparations, the fight extends to land restitution. As millions of Africans remain dispossessed, while foreign entities control vast tracts of land, how can a nation thrive when its people are denied ownership of their own resources? The call for justice also includes the return of stolen artifacts and cultural heritage, which remain displayed in Western museums while their rightful owners are deprived of their history. Many African leaders insist that true reparations must go beyond financial compensation and include policies that allow Africa to regain economic control and self-sufficiency. This battle for reparations is as much about securing Africa's future as it is about addressing its past. By reclaiming financial independence, Africa can chart a new course towards self-sustaining economic growth. Reparations are not a new concept. Other groups have successfully received compensation for historical injustices. Holocaust survivors were compensated by Germany, and Japanese Americans who were interned during World War II received restitution from the US. Yet, when Africa demands the same, it is met with denial and resistance. Why does justice apply to some but not to others? The West argues that reparations are impractical, yet continues to impose economic punishments on African nations reclaiming their resources. Sanctions and economic penalties are frequently used as weapons against African leaders who challenge Western dominance, further stifling the continent's progress. Is the reluctance to pay reparations rooted in financial concerns, or is it about maintaining control over Africa's economic destiny? The hypocrisy is glaring, as Western nations benefit from Africa's continued struggles while refusing to acknowledge the role they played in creating them. Even as these nations condemn historical injustices in other parts of the world, they refuse to confront their own past. The question remains, if reparations are a matter of principle, why is Africa excluded from the conversation? Reparations should not be viewed as a mere financial payout, but as an opportunity for structural transformation. Investing in Africa's technology and industrial sectors can create sustainable development and break the cycle of economic dependence. True justice means fostering self-sufficiency so that Africa is no longer reliant on exploitative trade agreements and foreign aid. Could reparations be the key to unlocking Africa's industrial revolution? If Western nations truly wish to make amends, they must support initiatives that empower African nations rather than perpetuate economic subjugation. The demand for reparations is also a call for global policy changes that acknowledge past injustices and prevent their continuation in modern forms. This is a fight not just for Africa, but for fairness and accountability on a global scale. A well-structured reparations program could pave the way for Africa to become an economic powerhouse. If given the opportunity, African nations could transform their economies and lead the way in innovation, industry, and trade. The demand for reparations is not about seeking charity. It is about justice, recognition, and accountability. For too long, Africa has been forced to bear the scars of historical exploitation without any form of redress. Will the West finally listen, or will it continue to turn a blind eye to its moral and financial obligations? The future of Africa's economic and political independence hinges on these demands being taken seriously. With growing unity among African nations, the fight for reparations is gaining strength, signaling a new era in Africa's quest for justice and economic sovereignty. The question remains, how long can the world ignore the undeniable truth of Africa's rightful claims? The battle for reparations is more than just a legal or economic issue. It is a moral imperative. As Africa rises, the world must decide whether it will support justice or continue to uphold the status quo. What do you think about Africa's demand for reparations? Should the West finally take responsibility for centuries of exploitation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on Africa's transformation.